get ready for a deep low lunge with the back knee down. So place a blanket on your sticky mat as you see here, and that will be the padding for the knee that will drop down. And then stand at the front of your sticky mat with a block on either side of each foot. Stand tall in mountain pose. Stand tall in mountain pose with energized legs. And then bring your hands down to the blocks and step your left foot back. Gather the outer right hip back and in. Lift the back thigh up. Lengthen the spine from bottom to top. Long trunk here, long abdomen. And let your hips sink down to be the height of the front knee. And then let your hips sink even further down as you reach the left thigh further back, and then place the left knee down on the blanket and then untuck your back toes. So the front of the shin and the front of the foot and the back leg is resting down on the blanket and the sticky mat, and sink your hips forward and down. So the whole sacrum is relaxing and releasing forwards, and then lift your low belly so that you lift your trunk up and out of the pelvis. Bending deeply in the front knee, pull the outer right hip back. Pull the right femur back towards the hip socket. Pull the outer right hip back and also towards the midline. Gather your hips towards each other. Lift the low belly. Kick the back shin into the sticky mat. And then tuck your back toes under. Lift your back thigh and step your back foot forward. Then now step your right foot back, first coming into a simple lunge. Gather the left femur back towards the hip socket. Lift the back thigh. Let your hips come down to be the same height as the front knee. Gather your hips together and lengthen your spine. And then walk your right leg even further back. Extend that right thigh further back. Sink your hips down and then lower the back knee down onto the blanket. And rest the top of your back foot down onto the sticky mat. Kick the right shin down into the ground as you take your hips forward, letting the whole sacrum move forward. The tailbone moves into the body, and then lift your low belly and gather your outer left hip from the outer knee to the hip socket. So the outer left hip gathers back and in towards the midline. Squeeze your outer hips together, lift the deep low belly again, and lengthen through the anterior spine, kicking the right shin down. Bending deeply in the front knee. Smooth breathing here. And then tuck your back toes and lift your back thigh. And step your back foot forward. Bend your knees, relax and release your head down. And then take your hands to hips and stretch your chest forward to come on up. And now we'll practice a deep lunge with a side bend. So lower your hands down onto the blocks and step your left foot back into a lunge. Deep in the lunge, keep the back leg active. Gather the right femur into the hip socket. And then elongate the left leg further back and lower the back knee down. Let the tailbone move into the body and lift the low belly. Gather your outer right thigh towards the hip. So pull from the outer right knee to the outer hip energetically. And then take the block that's on the right side of your foot and move that block all the way out to the right, in line with your right hip and out to the side. And then take a side bend into that right hand, which is on the block. So we're in a deep lunge and then adding a side bend to that as well. Leaning over to the right, gathering that outer right femur into the hip socket, and then gather both outer hips towards each other. Lift the low belly. Let the sacrum move forward towards the front heel. Bend further to the side. And then swing your left arm around, back down to the block. Lift your back thigh up as you tuck the toes. And step your back foot forward. And then bend your knees and step your right foot back into a lunge for the other side. Square your hips here by gathering the left femur towards the hip socket. Keep the back inner thigh lifting. Lengthen the spine here, buoyant in the belly. Reach the right thigh further back and then drop the right knee down. And then let the pelvis sink forward towards that front heel. Lift the low belly. Gather your outer hips in and take the block that's under your left hand and move it all the way out to the side in line with your left hip. And then start to side bend yourself, lifting the right arm up and over, side bend to the left. Let the tailbone move forward, bend the front knee, lift the low belly, kick the right foot into the floor and bend even deeper to the side. Side bending to the left. Gather the outer left thigh from the outer knee to the outer hip and gather the hips towards the midline. Tailbone anchoring deeper into the body. And then swing your arm forward and around to come back to the block. Lift the back thigh to come into a simple lunge again. And then step your back foot forward, soft knees, hands to the outer hips, stretch your chest forward and come up. Now we'll do a quad stretch with a chair, with the sticky mat against the wall and a blanket. So fold up your blanket and place it on the sticky mat near the wall as you see here. And turn around so your back is to the wall and so you're facing the chair. And rest on your shins, and your feet can be up on the blanket. And then lean your hands into the seat of the chair and place your left knee on the blanket so that your left shin is against the wall. And then place your right foot between the legs of the chair and use your hands on the seat of the chair to help your spine become very upright. And you can press the top of the left foot into the wall and start to squeeze your outer hips towards each other. Pull the outer right thigh back towards the hip socket. Square off your hips and lift the low belly up off your pelvis, and even think of lifting the front of the pelvis as you ground the sacrum, the tailbone forward towards the front heel. And lift the spine, ascend the spine and lengthen it from bottom to top. Squaring the hips, gathering the outer hips, lengthening the thoracic spine here as well. And then bring your front shin down to the floor and the back shin down to the floor, and we'll get ready to switch sides. Bring your hands onto the chair seat and place the right shin against the wall by taking the right knee onto the blanket, and place your left foot between the legs of the chair. Again, use your hands on the seat of the chair to help keep you upright. And start to gather the outer hips in. Pull the outer left thigh back. Square the hips and lift the low belly. Lift the front of the pelvis and ascend through the spine from bottom to top, and let the tailbone anchor forward towards the front heel. Continue to square the hips. Use the chair to lift up out of your waist. Kick the back foot into the wall. Let the sacrum move forward towards the front heel. Breathing here. Breathing into the sensations. Lifting the low belly. Gathering the outer hips. And then lower the front shin down. And lower the back shin down. Sit on the shins here. Rest your hands on thighs. And now we'll do a version of gate pose at the wall. So place your sticky mat against the wall as you see here, and then spread your blanket out on the mat near the wall and sit on your shins. And then lift your left arm up and place the whole left side of your body very close to the wall, standing up on the knees. And place your right foot down on your sticky mat so that your right foot is even in front of the line of the left knee. So that right leg is a little bit in front of you. And then start to side bend away from the wall. Press your left hip into the wall and then lengthen the whole side body up and over to the right. Press the right foot down. Press the right elbow into the right inner knee to keep that knee open, and stand up tall on your left shin. So don't let the buttocks go back and down, but rather pull the buttocks forward and under you. Lengthen your spine and then side bend more to the right. Lift the buttocks up and under you. Press the left hip into the wall. And then inhale, get taller and come out of the pose. And then stretch your right leg out for a second variation. Make sure that your heel is a little bit in front of you. And then start to side bend towards the right foot. Again, keeping the buttocks reaching forward and under you, standing tall on the left shin. Stretching the left side body up and over. Right hand resting on right shin. Parigasana, like the latch of a gate. Take your body up and over to the right. Open the left ribs to the ceiling. Let the abdomen recede and lengthen. And then inhale and come all the way up, letting your left arm come up against the wall. And then move away from the wall as you lower onto your shins and take a rest. And then spin around for the other side. Stand up on your right shin and press your right foot down. Make sure your left foot is a little bit in front of you and the left knee is open. So the right arm is going up the wall. And then connect your right outer hip to the wall and start to side bend over to the left. So that left elbow is pressing back into the left inner knee to keep that knee open. Scoop the buttocks forward. Lift the front of the pelvis up. Lift the low belly. Lengthen your spine. Get longer and then go more to the side. Anchor your right hip to the wall. Anchor your left elbow to the left inner knee. And then open the right ribs and go more over to the side. Scoop the buttocks forward. Stand tall on the right shin. Lengthen and go deeper. Open the right ribs to the ceiling. Lift the low belly. Press the left foot into the floor. And then inhale and come up, walking the right arm up the wall. And start to straighten the left leg, flexing the foot. Foot is very alive. Scoop the buttocks forward so it's really under you, and then start to side bend left. So make sure it's not a back bend, but rather it's a true side bend. So let that left buttock drop down and under you. Scoop the tailbone forward. Lengthen the trunk and go to the side. Left hand on left shin. Right hip pressing into the wall. Open the right ribs. Long arms, long spine. Scooping the buttocks under you. Standing tall in the right shin. Deepen your breath here. And then inhale and come up, right arm against the wall. And scoochie yourself away from the wall. Sit on chins and recover. Now we'll practice a reverse bridge. So sit down on your buttocks. Have your knees bent and feet flat in front of you. Hands behind you with your fingers pointing towards your buttocks. Feet parallel. And then press into your feet and your hands and lift the buttocks up as you see here. Lifting the right and left sides of the tailbone up. Lift the rib cage up off of your arms. Gather your outer knees in towards each other and lift the buttocks and the tailbone and the shoulder blades so much that you can let your head release back. Grounding the inner feet, gathering the outer knees. And then exhale and release your buttocks down. And now turn your hands so that your fingertips point all the way back. Shoulders back, feet are grounded, and then scoop the buttocks and lift the buttocks up again. Gather the outer thighs, lift the center buttocks, lift the outer hips. Let the inner thighs release down as you lift the outer hips more and lift the shoulder blades more and let the head release back. Extend through the elbows. Press into the feet. And then exhale and sit your buttocks back down. Now we'll practice pigeon pose with some supportive props. So have a blanket on your sticky mat, and that will be padding for your back knee. And have a bolster horizontally on your mat and 2 blocks up at the front of your mat. And then sit on your bolster with your right leg in the pigeon position in front of the bolster. And the front of the back thigh, at the top of the thigh, will be resting on the bolster as you see here. So come into this position. It's a pigeon position, but with the bolster supporting you underneath the pelvis. And have your hands on the blocks quite wide. And let the blocks help you sit very tall. And the right knee is quite wide. Make sure that your right knee is wider than your right hip. So the right knee is pretty much right at the right side edge of your yoga mat. And internally rotate the back thigh so that the front of your back leg is pointing down. And then lift the low belly and elongate the spine. Create a deep internal lift in the trunk. And see if your tailbone can become quite heavy here. Lift from underneath the collarbones and use your hands to help you lift the rib cage up off the abdomen and even lengthen the throat and look up. And now we'll start to forward fold here, coming onto the forearms. And as you come onto the forearms, let your pelvis become very heavy into the bolster. And to increase the stretch, you can move your right heel further away from the bolster. In other words, the right foot can come towards your left elbow. Or you can stay here and just breathe into the sensations that arise in the outer right hip especially. Staying long in the spine here, staying buoyant in the belly here. Stay present, steady breathing. And then walk your hands back. And come out of the pose by sitting on the shins, on the blanket, and then switch sides. So now take the left knee forward and set yourself up here so the left knee is quite wide near the outer left edge of your yoga mat. Internally rotate the back thigh And so you're in this seated upright position with the bolster supporting you under your pelvis. And think of pulling that left femur back to help you square the hips. Lift the low belly. Use your hands to sit nice and tall, lengthening in the side ribs. Spread wide across the collarbones and lift the whole rib cage up off of the pelvis. Lift the whole rib cage up off of the abdomen and lengthen up through the central axis of the body. Relax and open the back of the throat and even look up. Gather the left femur back to square the hips as you elongate your trunk forward and come onto forearms, letting the pelvis relax into the support of the bolster here. Let the belly recede towards the anterior spine. And lengthen the thoracic spine forwards. Stay present here as you breathe, observing the sensations. And then use your hands to help you out of the pose, coming onto hands and knees and then sitting on the shins. And now we'll practice Supta Padangustasana 2. So have a strap with you and have a bolster nearby to the right side of your mat. Knees bent and feet flat, laying on your back. Go ahead and lasso your right heel with the strap and start to extend your right leg up. And it might be straight or it might be a little bent, and that's fine. And then pull your bolster close to you so that the bolster is right at the outer right hip. And pull that outer right hip down away from the right waist so the right waist stays very long. And then start to straighten out the left leg. Internally rotate that left thigh and ground it down. And grab onto the strap with your right hand only, grabbing quite close to the foot. Spread your left arm to the left, and then take your right leg all the way out to the right, bringing it to the side. And then rotate your right thigh internally just a little bit, which will give you a different stretch in the groin and in the adductors, the inner thigh muscles. Spread wide across the chest, be long in the spine, long in the abdomen, and even think of sliding the low abdomen to the left a little bit to balance out the right leg moving to the right. Energize your legs so that they get longer, more extended. Grounded in that left thigh. And let the right foot be in line with the right hip. Don't pull it up too much towards the shoulder. And then inhale your right leg all the way up to the center. And then bend your knee and bring your right foot down, and we'll do the other side. So place your bolster on the left side of you and lasso the left heel with the strap and extend the left leg up to the ceiling. Bent knee is fine. And then start to straighten out your right leg, grounding the right thigh, internally rotating the right thigh, and pull the bolster so that it's close to you near the outer left hip. Soft, long belly here. And now grab onto the strap with your left hand only, close to the foot, and spread your right arm to the right as you take your left leg to the left. The left leg will be supported by the bolster underneath that outer thigh. And let the low belly slide to the right a little bit as the left leg relaxes more down to the left. A little bit of internal rotation on that left thigh. And that left foot is about in line with the left hip, not pulling too much up towards the head. Extended legs, open feet, grounded in that right thigh and hip. And then inhale up to center. Bend both knees, feet flat. And take a moment to breathe here in neutral. And have 2 blocks handy now for Setu Bandhasana with 2 blocks under the sacrum. So lay down with knees bent and feet flat, neutral pelvis. And have 1 block near your left hip and 1 block near your right hip. And then ground down through the feet. Feet are a little wider than sitting bones. Press your arms down to lift the hips up. And then gather your blocks together. So the blocks are on the highest height and they come directly adjacent to each other so that you can rest your sacrum right onto the blocks. So take a moment to find a place where your sacrum, right around the upper buttocks, feels very supported. And then interlace your fingers around the block and walk your shoulders closer together underneath you. Ground down through the arms. Let the buttocks, let the sacrum rest onto the support of the blocks. Press the shoulder blades into the rib cage so the chest moves towards the chin. Stay grounded in the feet. And then as you stay here, you can start to relax more and more. So you might find that you'd like to release the interlace of the fingers and just let your arms relax here with the palms face up. And breathe here, smooth inhalations and steady exhalations. Hug your shoulder blades into the rib cage, gather your outer knees towards each other, and then lift the heels to lift the buttocks and remove the blocks, and then roll yourself all the way down till the pelvis is resting on the sticky mat. Now we'll practice a lovely, simple version of Supta Baddha Konasana without any props. So lay down on your back and adjust the flesh of your buttocks so it moves away from the lower back. And then bring the soles of the feet together and the knees open. And we'll do this with no support so that gravity is your prop here. Gravity is what's helping you and informing you in this pose. See if you can just surrender your legs to gravity. And let your shoulder blades slide down your back and then stretch your arms out in a Shavasana position so that you can relax here. Let your trunk and spine be long. See if you can breathe here with your whole body. Relaxing the pelvis and the buttocks, relaxing the groins. Feel where your body is making contact with the floor. Contact with the sticky mat. And then start to lift your knees up. You can use your hands to help you if that feels right. Feet flat. And then roll over to your side to come on up.